our sincere apologies. Yeah, we had a mix-up. Then we all rose up to the occasion. So I think there should be a round of applause for all of us. Thank you. Let me also thank especially the Ghana banks for their support. The very first, again, I'd like to go back memory lane. 1963, in the lead up to the formation of the AU, when there were discussions around how do we set up this structure, okay, and what is the state of affairs of the continent. Should we bring the whole of Africa together, as was canvassed by our very own Kwame Nkrumah, or should we, first of all, create RECs, use the regional economic blocks, bring the countries together, let them start cooperating, and then eventually we can now bring the continent together. And then there was a third school of thought that said, leave all countries to be standalone, let them be fully independent on their own, and so on. Of course, the second school of thought that said, let us create these regional economic blocks, bring countries into groups, and then eventually we can come together one day. But today we see the vision of Kwame Nkrumah. If the continent had pursued the vision as he had espoused in 1963, the continent would have moved much further. And right here in this room, maybe it's fate, maybe it's destiny that brought us back to this room. About this time, January of 2022, we launched PAPSS, although we were facing this way, in this very room. So once again, we are back to this very room, and it looks like it is destiny. The very first transaction, the very first commercial transaction of PAPSS was a transaction that originated out of this market to Nigeria. And again, I think it originated from Ghana Commercial Bank and terminated in First Bank of Nigeria. So once again, it's as if each time Nigeria tries to catch up with Ghana, Ghana somehow finds a way to be one step ahead. So once again, thank you. So it's important each time we gather to remind ourselves why we are doing what we are doing. Why is it important to create this payment system that will drive trade? And I always say that every single day, we live our lives, we create value, different types of value, whether it's physical, whether it's digital, whether it's virtual, but we create value. We consume some of those values that we create, okay? And the rest we trade with the next person. Whether we are producing food, whether we are producing videos, anything that we create as value, we consume and we trade with the next person. Now, that is the cycle of life. But without payment, trade never happens. And anything that affects payments will affect trade. If you look at the concept of a market has buyers and sellers. It has rules for buying and selling. It has things like logistics and so on, but then it has an acceptable means of payment. Africa, having been balkanized, we have not been able to have that single acceptable means of payment. So with the coming on stream of the AFCFTA, it became clear that we as a people, we needed a payment system that we as a people can control, that we as a people can govern. The payment systems that we have today were not supporting Africa's trade. First of all, there was the issue of costs. If you look online and you look at some of the most expensive payment corridors, they are here on the African continent. So you ask yourself, why should the poorest be paying the most for transacting? Then you talk about delays. Payments sometimes could take 3 to 7 days, and these are times that business people require to be turning around their inventory, and they are spending it confirming payments. Today, when you travel from Lagos to Accra, you don't first of all go to New York and then come back to Accra. When we ship goods, we don't ship goods to New York and bring it back to Accra. When we talk on the phone, we don't talk to an operator in New York who now connects us to Accra. Why should money move that way? So because trade is at the center of the prosperity of nations, a trading continent is a prosperous continent, and Africa is so richly endowed. Africa is endowed. Just that we ship mostly raw materials, we don't even know what exists even in different parts of Africa. Sometimes, if you follow the trajectory of certain goods, you'll find that country A in Africa, which could actually be a neighboring country, is buying products from somewhere in Europe, and what is happening is that a middleman just sits in Europe, he buys, and he may not even add any value to the product. He sells the same product to another African country. And part of the problem is that it was easier to pay counterparties elsewhere around the world than to pay each other. Now, with every payment system, there will be slow starts, there will be teething issues, and I can assure you that we have seen our own fair share of those teething issues. But what I'm hoping that you will take away from this meeting, beyond all the technical presentations, is that spirit that, look, this payment system, we will make it work, okay? And as it works, it becomes a credit to us, and it becomes a tool which we can control. Sometimes when I speak, people ask me about, oh, okay, what do you think about so-and-so sanction? Does perhaps would the West or whoever be happy with the payment system? And I said to them, I have never involved in geopolitics. What is interesting to me is how do we drive trade on the continent? So we're not interested in how it affects here or affects here. No. To the extent that we're able to put in place a payment system that supports the growth of Africa, then we're satisfied. So again, if you leave me, I can talk for 1 hour. So I'll try to cut it short. One of the things that we've seen is working with the central banks and working with you guys and the commercial banks, we continue to get input that continues to feed into the shaping of this payment system. And ultimately, we will build a payment system that is fit for purpose. So today, we will also be sharing with you some of the new enhancements that we have had, given the feedback that we have received from a number of participants. And we are hoping that with our new commercial bank settlement model, which my colleagues will be speaking to today, that we can actually have more options, which will help us to achieve our collective goal. So once again, thank you so much for coming, and welcome to this roadshow. Thank you.